We have set 2030 targets to improve energy efficiency and reduce absolute greenhouse gas emissions by 30% against the 2016 baseline, and to achieve zero Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2040. Our total Scope 1 and 2 emissions in 2020 amounted to 3.94 million tonnes of CO2, with the majority coming through the use of coal-powered electricity, as well as the use of diesel and coal at our operations. Just under 1 million tonnes came from Mogalakwena, where most of our diesel-associated carbon emissions are generated from our truck and shovel fleet. So to reach our goal of zero emissions at Mogalakwena, we've broken down our plans into 4 areas. Firstly, business improvement and P101 opportunities that addresses efficiencies are underway. We are selecting a developer for phase 1 of the Mogalakwena solar PV facility, which will be approximately 100 megawatts. We are trialling our 300-ton hydrogen fuel cell mine truck, and the technology will be rolled out across the rest of the fleet. And finally, as part of the Anglo American Group, as a result of our geographic distribution across South Africa, we are collectively evaluating options to access multiple forms of renewable energy. We are very excited about the progress we've made towards our zero emissions mine solution at Mogalakwena. We've completed the design and build of the infrastructure required for the production of hydrogen, its storage and refueling. We have done significant testing of the haulage truck's fuel cell and the integrated drivetrain, with delivery to site in the 4th quarter. We've done the high-speed hydrogen refueling test and installed the relevant hydrogen storage capacity, and we are currently installing the electrolyzer, with first hydrogen production due towards the end of the year.
I've got a couple of questions now on the ESG front. So the first question comes from Arnold van Graan of Nedbank, who asks, have you quantified the financial impact of your zero Scope 1 and 2 emissions targets? What impact do you expect this to have on CapEx and costs over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think there's a couple of aspects to that question. The first one is we have divided our greenhouse gases into understanding firstly how we're more efficient, how we move our Scope 1 and 2, and then obviously there's a Scope 3 aspect to it. Now, when we talk closer to the near term, Craig has spoken to the 1 to 1.5 billion rand for the PV plant that we are building at Mogalakwena. That is about 25% of our energy requirement at Mogalakwena, and we are working towards increasing that to about 320 megawatts to ultimately cover the Mogalakwena requirement. We have a much bigger requirement, and you would have seen that our CO2 equivalent is about 3.94 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent. And for that, and because we are very reliant on Eskom, a big portion of that will require us to move into renewables broader than just diesel and coal that we were using in our operations directly. For that, we are engaging with government, and we're also working with with Anglo American to define a broader program across the country of harvesting renewables, whether it's wind, water storage, or PV. And we do have the benefit both from an Anglo Platinum point of view and an Anglo American in South Africa of the geographic distribution across the country to enable us to harvest these renewables in the best possible geographies. And the recent announcement that we will be able to, under certain conditions, will open up the opportunities for us to do so. Hopefully from that you will see that many of these plans are in development, and the early indications, Craig has spoken to the economics of the PV plant going up at Mogalakwena. The economics seem to look good, but certainly the full capital requirement for us to achieve that is work that's still underway.
And the last question comes from Martin Creamer of Mining Weekly, who asks, could renewable and green hydrogen be used in your PGM smelting process instead of coal-fired Eskom power and coking coal? If coal-fired power continues to be used, could your company be hurt by carbon import tariffs and carbon taxes?
We've definitely seen the iron and steel industry deploying and making quite significant a number of announcements over the last while. We are looking into the potential for us to use similar forms of energy, but certainly not as far progressed as the iron and steel industry is going at the moment.
Carbon tax is one of the considerations that we have in terms of future cost base and being able to evaluate the benefits of moving to the a carbon neutral position or reducing it by 40% by 2030 and then taking us to neutral by the end of 2040. That is a big component. So I think we paid around about 13 million rand in carbon tax in the first half, so relatively insignificant. However, what we do see is obviously the legislation that's in train that increasing quite materially, and therefore that's a greater incentive for us. Not only with regards to the environmental benefits, but also from a cost benefit, being able to look at alternative forms of energy to be able to reduce our overall cost base.